Hi, welcome to one of my Facebook Lives. I haven't done one for a few weeks. It's the beginning of September 2024 as I record this, and I thought it was time that I came live with a really important topic. Well, I think it's really important. Do say hi if you're watching this live in my Facebook group. It'd be lovely to know if you're here watching live, and if you're watching on catch up, do say catch up if you watch it again, and do add some comments. I'd really appreciate it. So why am I talking about organic today? Well, September is Organic September in the UK. This is always takes place in September every single year to raise awareness about organic farming practices and to raise awareness about the benefits of organic food. Now, we've seen huge increases in the uptake of organic foods in the UK over the past decade or more. It might have dropped off slightly since COVID and the cost of living crisis. And as you know, I've just called this post, "Is organic food and the cost of organic food, is it worth it?" So let me sort of delve into a little bit more around cost comparisons and benefits, risk benefits, to help you make a bit of an informed decision, and to help you make an informed decision about where you should spend your money. Now, there has been a fairly recent study looking at the comparison across the major supermarkets of some of the 19 sort of more everyday foods, if you call beef and meat everyday foods, but the foods we should be eating on an everyday basis: a selection of fruit, vegetables, dairy produce, other animal produce like meat. So there were 19 foods included, and they did a comparison and worked out an average across the major supermarkets, not looking at farmers markets, I'd hasten to add, just what's being sold in supermarkets. And they found that on average across this basket of 19 goods, when they did the comparison, that the organic produce was 89% more expensive than non-organic foods. It's quite a staggering amount more. There will be lots of reasons why organic food does cost a lot more. And I've written a blog post on this, and it will be available on my website, Peyton Principles. So do go and check it out. It will be there by the end of this first week of September. And included in that, I will have a few links, and the link to this study is included in that, and you can see the comparisons across these foods. So 89% more. Why on earth would you spend money on organic food? And is it worth the cost? So let's start first of all about what we mean by organic food and organic practices. So organic food is the growth, production, storage and transportation of food which is not using man-made chemicals, these man-made chemicals that are used in extremely high amounts in the agricultural industry in the UK and across the Western world and many other parts of the world. These chemicals are fertilizers, pesticides, herbicides, a thing that's going to protect the plant, make the plant become more abundant, grow better, protect it from insects, stopping the use of artificial colours and preservatives in the production of the food. And with livestock, it's very much about not using genetically modified ingredients in the foodstuff that's fed to plants. We know that genetically modified crops need to be notified to us if we are eating them, and I think as of yet we are not growing them in the UK. Massive outcry about genetically modified crops many years ago, but they could be in the livestock, in the food that's being fed to the livestock. If you're eating the meat, has it been fed genetically modified food? So it's not going to contain that. It won't contain any other man-made chemicals and additives in the food being fed to the livestock. And there won't be any growth stimulants like hormones being fed or injected into the livestock either. So it's about making sure the livestock are very natural pastures, natural grains and food, and the food, fruit and vegetables are not being sprayed with anything. There's nothing worse to me. It's quite horrifying if you are driving and you go past these massive fields and you see the arms out where they are spraying, and you start to wonder just what sort of chemicals are going on your food. So it's very carefully controlled. The Soil Association in the UK has responsibility for checking and labelling and certifying organic produce in the UK. And we know that when people choose organic, it's not just about the health benefits, but people are choosing that because they're very concerned about the environmental impact, because that is a big part of organic farming. And it's also to do with animal welfare as well. It's more likely that the animals are going to be kept in conditions that are more conducive to what is natural to the animals, rather than in the non-organic instance as well. So that's to do with organic food. Now, we need to start to think about benefits or the burden of not having organic. So let's start with toxicity and the chemical burden. Just as a general introduction to this, chemical increase in the UK. There's been a 50-fold increase in the use of chemicals since the 1950s. And it's estimated that there have been 140,000 new chemicals introduced in the UK since the 1950s in that time. 140,000 new chemicals. When chemicals are tested for safety, they're tested on the individual chemical, not the introduction of this massive increase in chemicals that are in the human body at any one time. Just what is that toxic burden doing to us as a whole? Now, when I look about chemicals and toxicity, I'm not just thinking about in the produce. Those 140,000 new chemicals are not just to do with farming, they are to do with furniture, in the air that we breathe, could be in skincare products, it could be in the water that we're drinking. So this chemical burden is in every aspect of our lives. Cleaning materials, washing powders, all of this is having an impact on our chemical burden. But we do know there's a massive chemical burden, as I've mentioned, with things like fertilizers and pesticides on our food. There was a very interesting UK parliamentary report in 2019 that gave staggering information and worrying statistics around the use of chemicals generally. Again, it is in my blog article on my website if you're interested to take a look at that. It's quite frightening when we look at that. But we need to break it down and think about, if we're thinking about our food alone, just what is the impact of that toxic burden in our fruit and veg. There have been articles to show that fruits may have a 75% higher pesticide level than non-organic. Vegetables are 32% higher pesticide level just on pesticides alone. So anything we can do to decrease that toxicity burden is going to be helpful. Well, why? Why do we want to decrease that toxicity burden? Our liver is our detoxifying organ, as well as performing hundreds of other roles to protect us and keep us safe and healthy. Now, this detoxifying role that the liver undertakes is part and parcel of what it's going to do every single day. It's going to take toxicity that's in our body naturally, detoxify it, and make it safe through different stages, through the liver stages, which pass out in a safe way through our urine, through our stools, might pass out through our lungs. We can pass out toxicity through our skin. Skin is a very huge eliminatory organ. If we add to our liver this massive toxicity burden, just what is it doing to help the liver perform all its other functions? Just as an example, one of its other major functions is helping to metabolize hormones like estrogen, and many women have difficulty with estrogen, whether it's through the menstrual cycle, whether it's to do with postmenopausal, managing estrogen levels naturally. It's very, very important. So what is this chemical overload doing to our liver and helping it perform its other roles? Skin is a very large eliminatory organ. If we place additional toxicity that may have to come out as its eliminatory organ through our skin, is it adding to a burden that may create an increase in rashes and itching? May it be contributing to inflammatory skin conditions like eczema or psoriasis. So it's worth bearing in mind the toxicity burden that's in the body. Toxicity overload and chemical overload in the body may contribute to brain fog, may contribute to tiredness, it may contribute to headaches. And we know that within the gut itself, if we're swallowing chemicals, then it can have an impact on the gut, it can have an impact on the delicate gut microbiome, it can have an impact on increasing intestinal permeability, damaging this very delicate gut mucosal barrier. It may make us more sensitivity foods. It may not be the food, it could be the chemicals. And generally it may result in an increase in a histamine response in the body. Histamine responses can lead to a multitude of different symptoms, whether it's sneezing, colds, weepy eyes, headaches, that type of thing. So we need to sort of strip it back a little bit around what that chemical overload might be doing to us. What about heavy metals? Now, cadmium is a highly toxic metal to humans, and organic crops were found to have 50% less cadmium than non-organic varieties of crops. Cadmium is a very heavy metal. It's not good. It can get lodged inside our cells. And cadmium can displace zinc, a very, very important mineral, has very important roles in the body, such as immunity, skin health, prostate health, and fertility. And that is just one of our heavy metals. There are many other heavy metals that can also be influenced by the chemicals that are being used and sprayed on our non-organic crops. Now, what about nutritional status? For a number of years now, there has been a big lobby to say there is no difference between organic and non-organic in terms of the nutritional status. Now, to me, the nutritional status is secondary to the toxicity burden in the body. As a naturopath, the toxicity burden and reducing the toxicity burden is absolutely paramount to our health. But obviously, anything we can do to support increasing our nutritional status is very valid and important. And there have now been some studies with regards to the antioxidant levels in fruit and vegetables. It's been shown that in some fruit and veg, there may be as much as 60% higher antioxidant levels. Things like vitamin C, for example, 60% higher levels in fruit and vegetables. Now, why do we need antioxidants? Well, the body can be producing free radicals. It does produce free radicals all the time. And we have to protect our cells because free radicals will damage our cells, and it can damage the DNA in our cells. It can damage the mitochondria. There are things responsible for producing energy in cells. The way in which we neutralize those free radicals is through these things called antioxidants. So we need to keep our antioxidant status as high as we possibly can to protect ourselves from free radical damage. Free radicals can then cause DNA damage, it can create inflammation, and can go on to cause other health conditions and concerns as well in the body. And just by increasing our antioxidant levels through organic fruit and vegetables, it could be as much as increasing your intake of fruit and vegetables by as much as 2 pieces a day, which for some people who don't manage to eat many, that could be quite significant. Soils are depleted in key minerals, such as calcium. Levels have dropped by 46% in non-organic since the 1930s and the 1980s. Calcium levels have dropped by 46%, copper by 76%, sodium by 49%, iron by 27%, and magnesium by 24%. We know that our soils have been completely depleted of minerals through over-farming practices. And one of the benefits of organic farming is to do crop rotation and doing other things to the soil to try and repair the soil and replace the levels of minerals that are going into the soil to do with other crops that are grown alongside. And this crop rotation is really, really important. Organic milk and organic meat has much higher levels of essential fatty acids like omega-3 probably to do with the grass-fed aspect of the cattle compared to grains and cheaper grains that are fed throughout the year to a lot of cattle. So much higher levels of omega-3 essential fatty acids, which is really important. So going back to my first question, is it worth the cost? Well, you have to weigh up all those benefits. But as I said at the start, the cost is significantly higher. So what can you do about that? Well, I always recommend to everyone I speak to, and clients and non-clients alone, to go and have a look at the Environmental Working Group, the EWG.org, or just type in the Clean 15 and the Dirty Dozen. And as the name suggests, the Clean 15 have the least residues of things like pesticides left on the fruit and veg, whereas the Dirty Dozen have really high levels of chemicals left behind once they've been harvested. Now, this is where I suggest you provide your focus. You may not be able to afford everything organic. I understand that, especially if you're shopping for a family of 4. But if you are going to do your shopping, look at the Dirty Dozen. Now, the current Dirty Dozen as it stands, and I don't think this changes that significantly each year, but the current Dirty Dozen are strawberries, spinach, kale, peaches, pears, nectarines, apples, grapes, peppers and chilies, cherries, blueberries, and green beans. Won't repeat it because it'll take too long. You can watch this again. And the Clean 15, where it isn't worth spending your money on organic because they're already pretty clean, are avocados, sweet corn, pineapple, onions, papaya, frozen peas, good thing, I'll talk about frozen veg, asparagus, honeydew melon, kiwi, cabbage, mushrooms, surprisingly again, mangoes, sweet potatoes, watermelon, and carrots. They are quite clean. Perhaps they're quite resistant to pests, and that's why they don't have much residue. That's the current list. Go and check it out for yourself, your EWG.org, or just research Clean 15 Dirty Dozen. Great site for so much information. Debbie, you said, wow, yeah, it's quite interesting. And it's always the first place I would suggest looking. Of course, the other thing you can do is look at some of these box schemes. There's lots of organizations that do deliveries of organic. And that's great because they're very seasonal as well. So I love that. So a lot of companies around will deliver you organic veg boxes and fruit, and it's very seasonal. Great idea to do that. And they also provide lots of recipes so you know what to do with that seasonal veg when it arrives. Think about growing your own. You don't need a massive vegetable plot to do that. You might just have some pots, or you might have a windowsill and you could grow a few herbs or something. Don't rule out just growing a few things. So look at that Dirty Dozen and think, what could I grow from that Dirty Dozen list? Not sure actually in the UK, but certainly things like kale and some green beans. My green beans are growing really well. So I know my green beans, I can pick them when they're fresh and they're organic. When you pick when they're fresh and eat them straight away, much high nutritional content. So hopefully that's given you a bit of an insight as to costs, where it's worth it, why we've got this toxicity burden through non-organic, why we need to be aware of it, why there's an increased nutritional level in the organic versus the non-organic, and just go and make your own wise choices as to where you can spend your money. As I said, this is a blog post or will be by the end of this week on my website, peytonprinciples.com. Loads and loads and loads of blog posts there. So thank you for watching, and I know that this will become a video on my YouTube channel, Peyton Principles Natural Health, where I've got about 400 videos now. So again, go and have a catch up there if you want to watch that, and you can pause that in your own time. Again, it'll be there by the end of the week. So thank you so much for watching. Hope you're all well, and any topics you want me to talk about, please drop me a message and let me know. But this was very timely in Organic September month. And thanks for watching. Hope you're well. Take care, and I'll catch up with you soon. Bye.